Um, Paul, how do you feel? Do you want to go ahead and get started with the new capabilities and we'll finish this thing up?
I'm good with that. It's I
Okay,
don't unless our attendees have questions, but I think we're good here.
let's go ahead
Um,
and do it. I think that's the excitement of the day is talking about the things you're going to talk about with
but,
the new capabilities for 12 and 12.1.
well, let's not get too excited here. Let's do a slow roar. Let's do a contained grumble here. How's that?
All right. All
Now,
right.
Let me see if I can get this set up on my side here. I'm going to share the screen for our attendees here and see if I can there. All right. Can you guys see my screen? Tony,
Yay,
Mike?
it worked.
Hey. All right. So, and I need my my list of things. Now, here's the thing, I'm going to fly my notes across in front of everybody just to give you a little sneak peek there. So here's the thing, I worked hard getting some, I have to throw some shade to our developer team here, and it was a veiled compliment. How's that? To our developer team here. I worked hard getting ready to showcase what happened in version 12. Very proud of this. There's some big stuff that happened. I was ready for today. I really was. I promise I was. But then yesterday, those guys worked their butts off and released version 12.1. So there's a bunch of new stuff I had to pack in here. So there's some new stuff please everybody kind of forgive me, work with me here. I can certainly get you all the release notes you want about any version you want to know about here. But let's talk about. I'm going to put everything, kind of lump everything into one mercifully short session here, and I hope I go into everything in enough details. So where I wanted to start was the page everybody sees before they log into Issuetrak. Because of some of the other big changes we had to make, we created a new login page. Isn't that big? I mean, that's huge, right? And you can see there's the login itself is now centered, and this can be really kind of confusing to customers that are so used to being over on the left, putting in their user ID and password, right? So just keep in mind, this is with version 12.0. We changed this, and why we changed it, you're going to see in a minute. Let's get on to it. In addition to this new page, the look of it, we also increased the capacity of the login message. Now, for those of you that may not remember, right, the login message is the message you see that you type in on this page, right? Please log in here. If you can't log in, do this. If you really don't know why you're logging in, don't log in, whatever the case is. And that limit used to be around 1,000 characters, which really, to add HTML and to do some neat stuff, it really wasn't enough to make your message look pretty or to add a lot of text. You could run into that limit when you're using HTML. You could run into that limit pretty easily. And this is an HTML enabled message. So I'll show you what you can do now that you couldn't do before. All right. Can you guys see that? I had to condense this kind of almost all the way down to one screen, but this is the HD training site, and I just dropped 3 or 4 or 5 batches of text in separate tables, and you can just see how much information I was able to add to the login screen message. Now, my customers out there, you guys, will probably make this useful, but I really wanted to showcase just how much you could put in here. And I'm only at, including the HTML that I typed in to format this, I'm only at 4,000 characters. So you could put twice this much in there, plus formatting, and make it look really nice. Now, in fact, I even embedded some videos down here so you could really kind of see what's going on. Now, instead of playing the videos, you guys have us to talk to, right? So now, why did we do so much changing? Why did we make a new login screen here? Well, it's because we've added a feature called ADFS, right? So if you're using Active Directory, it's Active Directory Federated Services. And what that means is ADFS is a feature of Active Directory that you might use or you might not. You know, as you know, with most Microsoft services, there's parts of it that you can turn on and there's parts of it that you don't have to turn on, right? And this is one of those optional features that you may have enabled that allows you to do things like multi-factor authentication, and it allows you to do claims-based authentication. Basically, it allows an application that's been vetted, like Issuetrak, to talk to your Active Directory domain about one person at a time. And that's a very, security-wise, that's a really big mind shift from the way we do Active Directory authentication now. So it works really well too. The essence of this really gets down to the fact that Issuetrak, when you use ADFS, this feature of Active Directory, Issuetrak is no longer doing the authentication at all, period. Issuetrak doesn't have any say in that. It goes off to your Active Directory domain to do that, your federated services server to do that. So, and I'll demonstrate here. So you can see I'm at an internal site. It's fixit.issuetrak.com. You guys don't, my customers out there don't have, our customers out there don't have a login. So please, you can certainly look at the site if you want to, but please don't try logging in here because you don't have one. However, I'm part of this domain, this issuetrak.com domain, so I do have a login here. And to go there, I'm just going to click on employee login. Now, what happens that didn't happen before is, you see, I went to a page that's not part of Issuetrak anymore. This page came from officefs.issuetrak.com, which is no longer part of an Issuetrak instance. That's from our federated services server. That's the public face of our ADFS implementation. And that handles all of the logging in piece. And all that does is say, okay, you know your user ID, you know your password. If we had multi-factor authentication turned on for our domain, then it would force me to use multi-factor authentication. And then it passes the information about me back to the referring site, which is the Issuetrak site in this case. So you can see there's my user ID. I'm not going to tell you my password. And we hit sign in. And it gets this thing called a token or a claim and passes that back to the Fixit site right there. So no matter where I am, I'm not connected to a VPN or anything, right? The Issuetrak application really doesn't need a whole lot of information about me other than the fact that I was okay to log in and some key things about me that are set up within that AD federated services. Works really well. It's something that a lot of our customers have asked for. And it's a big change to the way we do authentication.
Now, the other part that, Paul, remember, the claim itself can then bring over information that you decide.
Right. Right.
And for certain mappings we had to do before this, we don't have to do those because we do it in the claim now. The update does it from that portion. It's
very different, a very different way of looking at authentication. It's claims-based authentication, but very different from an LDAP authentication. So now let's get out of that a little bit, but to make this work, some of the things we added to Issuetrak, we added the ability to search on the different types of authentication, including whether you're Active Directory authentication or ADFS authentication, or not, or Issuetrak authentication, which means you're just using a regular user ID and password stored within your Issuetrak instance. And we added that ability to search wherever you search for users, whether that's in administration list all, whether it's in the user search and in reporting, several other places in the product. So now let's get on to some of the other stuff that we've added outside of AD. Now the guys that aren't using AD, the customers out there, they're probably going deaf right now. They're probably just, oh man, I don't care about this. I don't know what AD is. Not going to use AD, So let's get into the stuff that's not AD related. Let's kind of take a step out of this, right? So some of the big things we added that are not AD, and this is kind of big, we added this submit method that you can actually see on the issue, right? Let me zoom that in a little bit so you can see. Now this is a key that I added, an item that I added to the custom screen that displays the actual submit method. And those of you Issuetrak old timers out there, and I see a couple of names in that list that I know knew kind of the trick. Before we could pull a report based on this value And that report came back with an ID, and then you had to look up, oh, number 1 means this, number 2 means that, right? Whereas now it's in actual English language, and we can put that value right on the issue, which sometimes can make a real difference in the way you work the issue, right? You know, if it's something that was sent in via email, you probably want to reply, add notes so you reply via email, right? So it can. It doesn't always make a difference, but sometimes it can. The other big thing that we've added here is this open issues indicator. And this is something that a lot of our customers asked for, that our support team, Will, I'm talking to you, right? You used to be one of those guys, right? Use all the time. And it's that ability to see how many issues are open for that organization. So that's the idea there. And before, you could get that information, but it took a lot of clicks. I mean, you had to go to history, and then you had to wonder, well, here, I've logged in too many times here. And then you had to do a sort by status, right? So you could see that it was that many, right? So it was just not clean before. So let me take us back to where we were here. And now it's cleaned up. You can see just that number, get that raw number, and see that there's an open issue for this organization, or in this case, 26. So for those of you that are using organization that way, it just makes it much cleaner and much quicker to help the customer. All right, now I had a couple more things. Now we're not done yet here, right? Let's see. And the other thing we had a lot of customers using the unassigned queue, right? This is a lot of our folks they have a large team of people and issues coming in, and they don't use a lot of routing, or they use some routing, but not a lot, right? So issues come into this unassigned queue, and then the team kind of knows what to work on and what to pull. Well, it was kind of complicated before because you didn't know what issue type you were picking up from the unassigned queue. And we've added that now. And this is kind of a big deal for like our customers that use the unassigned queue. So you can see now there's issue type right in the center, right? My eye is drawn right to it, of the unassigned queue. So you can tell whether you're picking up, in this case, an information technology issue or a sales issue. And I think that's going to help a lot of our customers that use that method for working issues. This is also now included in the unassigned tab on the My Issues page too. Before, to get this information, you had to use the dashboard really to see kind of what was going on, and you had to see it was listed in the dashboard panels, but it's a lot of clicks to drive to it. Now it's right here in the unassigned issues queue for everybody to see that uses it. There we go. Now I think that's what I had in my notes. I don't think any Dev has added anything since 5 o'clock yesterday when I finished writing my notes, but I don't know. I'll have to check to make sure. So any questions? I saw there were some questions popped up. Is there anything we need to cover here live?
I'm shirking my responsibilities.
Jessica had a question, said, is ADFS and the new login screen an option or the new default as of version 12.0?
I had that question come up. So what happens when somebody upgrades that's running AD?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so the new login page is for everybody, whether you're using ADFS or not. However, if you're not using ADFS, you don't see this employee login section below. And this is,
by the way, that label can be changed. That's a configurable
right.
label. You don't have to say employee. You can carry anything you want.
Fully customizable. So if we go to CS training here and I log out, or just like when I showed you guys HD training, right? This is not connected to ADFS. So that little box at the bottom is not there. It looks very similar to the old login screen. It's just that the box is in the center now. The user ID and password box is in the center. And it's got that bigger text limit.
Paul, I've also got another question I want you to answer on this.
Sure.
The question comes from an anonymous attendee. It says, does ADFS allow single sign-on like AD?
That's a good question. That's a good question. So ADFS, you still have to authenticate with the ADFS server. It doesn't allow for user ID and password pass through like the old LDAP authentication did. And that's what a lot of our customers mean when I ask about single sign-on. They're asking about credential pass-through. Do I have to type my passwords? ADFS, with ADFS, you can authenticate to that ADFS server and you're okay to log into many different places. So some people, when they say single sign-on, that's what they mean. But credential pass-through is not, we don't have credential pass-through with ADFS yet. I myself, you guys saw me when I logged in, I use LastPass to queue to store my credentials. So, and evidently I'm done using here. It's already got me logged in. So you can see, because I had already logged in before, I'm authenticated with ADFS every time I go back to this site until my claim expires. Now I'm logged in. So in essence, yeah, I did sign in once and I'm singly signed into this site, but for credential pass-through, we don't do that. We don't have that with ADFS yet.
Now, Paul, let's kind of follow that up. Now that we have ADFS and not standard AD, can we do single sign-on in the cloud now?
So, like I said, credential pass-through is still not possible. However, you can do single sign-on in the cloud. It is possible to do that single, because the ADFS server is what's handling that.
Right.
So that's off in the cloud. And you can see I've already told everybody I'm not connected to a VPN. So in essence, I am not joined to the issuetrak.com domain, even though right now I am authenticated to it and I'm not logged into this site. So if I click log in, because my claim is still good, I'm logged into the site directly without typing my user ID and password, because single sign-on is working.
So the user experience, once you are authenticated through ADFS, will pass you through to the Issuetrak.
Exactly.
And it will look just like an SSO on an on-premise site.
Exactly.
So you get the same type of experience, but you still have to at least get that claim established by logging into ADFS. But it opens us up now to do a form of single sign-on in the cloud, which I think a lot of people have wanted to do that did use Active Directory.
That's correct.
Experience.
And I want to be really clear, it's not doing credential pass-through, right? like ADS on-premise could, that we still can't do. However, once you authenticate with that ADFS server, hey, I'm good. It knows who I am.
Yeah. So
no more sign-in necessary.
And this is just a stepping stone to other things like multi-factor authentication. Is that correct?
Correct. With an ADFS, with the ADFS feature enabled on your domain, you can enable other types of security on that, like multi-factor authentication and many other things. There's other types of claim-based authentication that we are looking at adding in the future. We can ask Dan about that if you want.
Right. Maybe we'll actually eventually do a deep dive into ADFS once it's fully functional and do it that way. Pause. Anything else?
But two-factor authentication is working today.
Yes.
So that is part of this release that is available. It just requires more setup on the customer side.
Right.
Regardless of whether that's a on-premise or a hosted deployment.
And I'll tell you a secret here. Noel asked me at 5 o'clock yesterday if I wanted to add, if he could enable two-factor authentication for my account to force me to do two-factor authentication for today's demo. And I said, no, they're still adding other stuff to the product. I've got too much other stuff to show everybody today. So Noel wanted to, but I had other stuff to add, like the open issues indicator on organization and some other stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. So do we have anything else in the chat that's come up, Tony?
No, those were the questions on the ADFS or the new features. Paul, while you're sharing your screen, it was in a prior release, but people may not know about it. Remember when you were on the issue and you had this submission method, you added it as a field on a custom screen?
Mm-hmm.
There's another one, I'm pulling this off my memory, that will display which quick pick was used, correct?
Yes.
Hang on, let's go to it here. And I think
this is that nerdy side. If you don't have the pane or you don't read the release notes, you wouldn't know about it.
I think it's at the bottom of the forms on the most of the CS CS training site.
Let me go to the one that I'm using here. I believe that feature, let's see.
It could be already there, Paul.
Let's
Look at the very bottom.
Associated quick pick.
That's
That's
it.
where we went to. I was looking for this field yesterday to add it into our layout, and I could not find it. And I was like, why can I not find it? But like I said, they were busy adding other features so that I couldn't get to it. I believe this is my, there we go, we'll add it to the top. And I believe.
And the thing is if this issue was submitted through Quick Pick, then the associated Quick Pick name would be filled into that field,
Right.
and then be available for use for reports.
Exactly.
A lot of times that's information you may want to capture, but you may not want to display. So you may want to hide it. I particularly didn't want to display it in the main business portion of the issue. So I just took it at the bottom of the forms and added them underneath the existing notes token so that the existing notes would kind of shut it to the bottom of the page.
And this comes in handy when you start opening issues from IEM,
Yes.
from an incoming email, or maybe you're parsing the subject line, looking for a quick pick match.
Yes.
Right. And you see, why didn't this thing match this quick pick? Well, you can see it right there, whether it did or not,
Yep.
and what the quick pick actual name was.
Mm-hmm. And that would be going to the submit method too, because then you can use the submit method on how it came through. That's also a reportable token that's actually in the back in the report writer too.
So thanks for showing that, Paul.
There we go.
Well, we are running a little late, guys, or we're running actually right on time. Is there any other questions on anything else on the or that's been covered today or not covered today? We're open to anything that you would like to know.
Two things while you're driving, Paul. Can you
Sure.
go to issuetrak.com, show them where video on demands are?
I sure can.
And user voice.
Sure. So you see, I just typed in issuetrak.com. And let me zoom in a little bit so that everybody like me that can't read the screen can have a little magnification. And all we do is go to resources and on-demand webinars. That's where today's webinar will show up. That's where all of our past webinars show up after our marketing team gets a chance to kind of slice and dice the video for you. You can see there's a lot of other content there as well. There we go. And here we go. And see, it's we don't put the whole session up. We cut it into bits, so you don't have to download. You don't have to watch the whole video in one shot, the whole webinar in one shot. You can watch them a piece at a time.
This is the 8th one. So after this one, there'll be 24 of them. So if they don't load all at one time, give it a little time. You see where it says loading at the bottom of the page, it'll go ahead and continue to load as you scroll down the page.
See, there we go.
So there's at least, I believe, 24 or 25 of these out there right now.
Yep.
A few more to go. And while we're talking about that, we planned up through October to continue this through September, August and September. We haven't really set up the October webinar yet. If you've got any ideas of a topic that you would like to hear us talk about, please go ahead and let us know. Send an email into Paul and myself at support, or send it to Tony. He'll be happy to make some suggestions for us to continue this through the wintertime by adding topics you would like to hear about. Even if it's something we've already discussed, maybe there's a flavor of it that we didn't get deep enough or that you would like to discuss. Either through that or through the surveys that we will send out at the end of the session. Please give us some feedback and let us know how we're doing and whether we're meeting your needs.
Hey, Mike, did we determine September's?
And we're going to do change management. We decided to go ahead and do kind of a change management and then a change management like task processes best practice session and kind of work them together. They kind of got to go together anyway. If you have a work process or change management process that you want to implement, we're going to show you exactly what we can do, how we can set it up, and then the best practices to go along with that so that when you are working with the task manager, that you be as efficient as possible. Give you a few tricks and tips that Paul and I have come up with working with different customers. So that's what we're planning on in September.
Okay, thanks.
Next one is customer support. And I don't remember the second session, to be honest with you. But I know customer support's the main topic next time.
And this goes back to the introductory. So we'll do, if customer support's not your thing, or if you're already doing it, you probably don't need that first half hour. Then come in, you know, at 1:30 Eastern, you'll pick up the deep dive, you'll pick up the new features that are being released. So just kind of maximize the efficiency of your time.
Yeah.
I appreciate everybody's time coming in here. We find these beneficial from a customer engagement perspective. We hope that it's worth your all's time as well.
All right then. Then thank you, and we appreciate your time, and we're signing off. Bye now.
Bye now. Thanks for coming, everybody.
Bye.